Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Sharp Sports Media, and we got our picks for the Week 8 of the NFL 2023-2024 season coming up right now. We start off with Thursday Night Football. You got Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks coming off a tough loss to their division rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, going to upstate New York to play the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is 8.5-point favorites, even though they're coming off the biggest upset of the year probably so far, with them losing to the Patriots, giving the Patriots and Bill Belichick their second win of the year. And I said that last week the Bills would be in for a big bounce back game. Well, I'm just going to roll that over a bit into this week. That's what we're doing, because this Bills team, the biggest problem with them is not that they don't have enough talent, because they are more than talented. It's that they can't stay consistent. They can't play at an elite level every time they step on that field. And so what happens when you get too low? Well, everybody's down on them. Well, then they play good again, and everybody's like, oh, we'll see how good they are. So that's going to be this game. They're going to come out, and they're going to dominate a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team I am not high on. Their offense is below average with good skill players like Mike Evans, like Chris Godwin, but nothing to write home about. Their defense has a good linebacking core, Devin White, Levante David, but this isn't an elite defense. And in a bad division, I'm not huge on the Buccaneers. I like the Bills, and I like the Bills to cover the 8.5 as well. I might alt spread that a bit down, maybe to 6.5, so I only lay a touchdown, but I still like them at 8.5 to cover that spread. Moving on to the Sunday slate, we got the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to Jerry's World to play the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas 6.5-point favorites in this game. And I think that while this Rams team is one of the more surprising teams, they can, I think, beat most of the good teams, but I think they can lose to the bad teams as well. They're one of those teams that can beat and lose to almost everybody, depending on the way they play and depending on how good their opponent plays. I still like the Cowboys in this game to come away with a win. They're just coming off their bye, so they have 2 weeks to prepare for the Rams. Rams coming off a tough loss, moving to 3-4 against the Steelers, which, referees in that one were a little dicey with that spotting on the fourth down with Kenny Pickett. So I wasn't too thrilled as a guy who took the Rams in his parlay. I was a little mad. We can just say there was a little rage, just a little. But I like Dallas here. I don't know if I would take them to cover. 6.5 is a solid line if you think Rams or they'll win by a touchdown. The Dallas Cowboys, but I think it's going to be closer. I think it is a one-score game. Will that be a field goal? Would it be 4 points? So I'm going to take the Rams to cover this game, but I still think the Cowboys win this game outright. So Rams to cover, Cowboys to win. Then we got a big divisional matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. Minnesota coming off one of the biggest upsets of the year. We had a lot of upsets last week with them beating the San Francisco 49ers without Justin Jefferson, and the Packers coming off that loss to the Denver Broncos. Green Bay at home in Lambeau. This line dead even, which means that they a little favorite to the Vikings, but with Green Bay being home, they get a point or two that will make it even. This is a coin flip. I'm going to go with the Packers in this one. Surprisingly enough, I know maybe some people are saying, well, they just came off a huge win versus the Niners. That, again, I think a lot of problems with a lot of the problems with NFL teams in the middle of the pack is they're not consistent. They're not consistently elite, and they can drop pretty low too. I think that's one of the problems with the Bills, but the Bills' high is just so much higher than the rest of these teams, but most of these teams can't stay consistent. I don't see the Vikings putting up 2 solid back-to-back games. I think the Packers coming off a loss to the Broncos bounce back at home at it with a divisional rival. Still no Justin Jefferson. I think they rebound and the Packers take this one to probably save their season because going to 2-5 with the Lions and the Vikings both ahead of you would not be good for them. So I am ultimately going to take the Packers here and to keep their season alive, really. Then we got the Tennessee Titans hosting the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons coming off that big win, like we said earlier, against the Bucks. Titans at home are not favorited, though. What? Not favorited. Coming off that bye week. 2.5-point favorites for the Falcons. But I like the Titans here in this game. Derrick Henry getting a bit more rest. They're starting Will Levis in his first game. Storylines like that. I think he plays decently well. Gives him a bit more in the passing game than we've seen before from Malik Willis. So I like the Titans here, especially at home. I think they ground and pound with Derrick Henry. I don't know if they're going to use Kyle Pitts. I don't know if they're going to use Bijan Robinson as much. Will he have another headache? Who knows? Because Arthur Smith is crazy. So I'm going to go with the Titans here in a close matchup at home. Then we got the New Orleans Saints. They're going to the Midwest to play the Gardner Minshew-led Colts. Colts coming off a brutal loss with a little bit of blame to go around for the referees on those two back-to-back penalties. First one, probably, I can see it being called a penalty, 50-50, just soft call, but still understandable. Second one was ridiculous. It was uncatchable. But they're hosting the New Orleans Saints coming off that Thursday Night Football loss to the Jaguars. The Saints on the road are the 1-point favorites, and I'm going to take the Saints to win this game. And if they win, I think they'll cover the 1-point spread. I think the Saints bounce back a bit. I'm still not convinced I'm going to see a full game of good Colts football without Anthony Richardson. I think Derek Carr bounces back a bit. I know he's pretty brutal. Saints fans were ripping on him. I'm not a huge Derek Carr believer, but I still think he is a decent. He's a starting caliber. Is he above a top 15 quarterback? No. Is he a top 20 quarterback? Maybe. I'd say he's top 20 to top 25. But that's still starting caliber, which is crazy to think that if you have that's a starting caliber. You probably should be looking for a new one. Just saying. But that is still a starting caliber quarterback. I think Saints, in a much needed win for them, go to the horseshoe and get the job done. Then you got another divisional matchup between the New England Patriots coming off their biggest win of the season against the Buffalo Bills, going to Miami to take on Mike McDaniel and that high-powered Miami Dolphins offense, which was kind of shut down last week versus the Eagles a bit in that loss. Dolphins really haven't won a game versus a elite team or even a very above 500 team, but they kill every team that is below 500 or is not a great team. So they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. That's what is right here. Dolphins are 9-point favorites. I do like them covering that spread. I don't see this Patriots defense being able to keep up with the high-powered offense of the Miami Dolphins. Give me the Dolphins here to win by 10 or more in a bounce-back game. Then we got, the Battle of New York. What I'm waiting for. The New York Jets. They're at home as well. It's all both teams play in MetLife for the bragging rights of New York. Jets Giants at MetLife. The Jets are 3-point favorites. If you're clicking on this video, you know who I am. You know who I'm taking in this one. I'm taking my New York Football Giants to win this game. Andrew Thomas sounds like he's going to be back. There's a possibility John Michael Schmitz will be back. I don't know if Daniel Jones will be back or not, but this defense is humming. And I think they're going to make Zach Wilson's life a living hell. I think he causes a couple turnovers. People were pretty high on Zach Wilson after the performance against the Eagles. I think he comes back down to earth a bit to show Zach Wilson's true colors again. I think the offense does just enough. I think Jalen Hyatt gets involved. I think Darren Waller has another solid day. I think Wandale gets a couple more catches this week, and Saquon does his thing. And the Giants defend New York to win the battle of the two New York teams. We'll move on because, I could talk about the Giants all day and there'll be a video for that, but not right now. This is my picks. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to the Steel City to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jacksonville 2.5-point favorites, and I do like Jacksonville to cover that. I like them to win by 3 or more here. Steelers are, I think, one of the most fraudulent 4-2 teams in the league. I do not think they're very good. This offense is terrible. The fact that the refs basically handed them the game at the end, I mean, granted, they could have stopped the Rams, and the Rams couldn't have scored to tie it up. But still, I cannot take the Steelers. I think Jacksonville is starting to get better and better each week. If that offense can stay consistent, this team could battle with almost anybody. Give me Jacksonville here to win this game and win it by more than 3. Then we got the another divisional matchup. We got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. Commanders coming off that loss to the Giants, and the Eagles coming off the biggest win of the season versus the Dolphins. Philly 6.5-point favorites, and I do like Philly to win and to cover, but I will preface, this is in Washington. Washington is coming off a big loss. This is a trap game for the Eagles. Washington always plays the Cowboys and Eagles well. They seem to always get one of them. They win one game versus the Eagles and the Cowboys at least almost each year, especially at home. They are a team to not look over if you're the Eagles. This is a game that you should not take lightly. This is a team that has had both the Cowboys and Eagles number in just really just somehow just arcing out a win that they shouldn't. So while I do think the Eagles will win and I do think they'll cover, they need to play their A game because Washington will come to play. And if the Eagles don't play their 110%, their best football, they will lose this game, which is crazy to say, but it is true. Then we move on to the final 1 o'clock game. We got the Houston Texans taking on the Carolina Panthers. Houston 3-point favorites in this game. And while I don't think Carolina is the greatest team in the world, obviously not, they're 0-6. I don't think they're going to go winless. I think they get a win here versus the Texans at home. I think that offense coming off a bye week is gonna they put up points quietly. They put up points. I know people don't like to talk about it, but they put up a decent amount of points. I think the defense holds Elise Stroud for a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a shootout, but I don't think it's going to be a defensive battle. But ultimately, I think the battle between the number 1 and number 2 overall picks from last year's draft between C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, round 1 goes to Bryce Young. Who would have thought after these past couple weeks? But I have the Panthers. Then we move on to the 4 o'clock slate. And we got the Cleveland Browns coming off that big win with the refs may or may not have been involved. But Myles Garrett was a machine. He just took over. Took over that game versus the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks at home, 3.5-point favorites. And I like the Seahawks to win this game. I would take the Browns to cover, though. The 3.5. But I like the Seahawks to win this game, maybe on a last-second field goal or something like that. I think this is a low-scoring game, but I like Seattle, especially at home. I trust their offense more, so I'm going to take Seattle. Not as much analysis on that, but just kind of a gut decision that somebody's going to have to make a drive late to win this game. And do you trust what you've seen out of Deshaun Watson or P.J. Walker, or do you trust Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett? I don't know if DK Metcalf will play, but if he does, Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who do you trust more? I trust Geno Smith and the Seahawks more, so give me them to win, but Browns to cover. Then we got another divisional matchup. We got the Denver Broncos coming off a win versus the Packers. They're hosting their big rival, the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City 7-point favorites. I'll take Kansas City. I'll take them with the points to win more than 7. They have Patrick Mahomes. They dogged the Broncos. I just don't got much more to say. I don't believe in this Broncos team. I don't think they can keep up with the Chiefs. I will say Nick Bolton is a huge loss for this Chiefs defense, but I still think this Chiefs defense is going to be able to contain this Denver Broncos offense. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens going to the West Coast to play the Arizona Cardinals. Baltimore, 8.5-point favorites. Kyler Murray coming back soon, but not just yet. You still got Joshua Dobbs. I like the Ravens here, and I like them to cover. 8.5's a lot, though. I'd be more comfortable with 6.5. I'd be 100%, but I'm still gonna take them to cover the 8.5. Just what you saw from them out of last week. They are this. You saw what this offense could be, and I believe the stat is it's either 15 or 16-1 is Lamar Jackson versus NFC teams. He destroys NFC teams. The only loss is to the Giants last year. Let me just preface that. I needed to get that in, but he destroys NFC teams. I think it's because they just don't see him as much, so it's harder to game plan what works, what doesn't work for your team. So I think ultimately the Ravens, they dog the Cardinals, and they cover that 8.5 point line. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe they're coming off a bye. Yeah, I think they're coming off a bye. Yes, bye. And then they're playing the San Francisco 49ers, coming off back-to-back losses, this time at Minnesota. Brock Purdy looked human, but he's in concussion protocol now. Don't know if he's going to play. San Fran, 3.5 point favorites. I'm still going to take San Francisco, though, to win this game. I think the defense has a big bounce-back game. They were getting carved up a bit by Minnesota without Justin Jefferson. I think Fred Warner and this crew take a good look around and say, hey, let's go. I think Nick Bosa gets after the quarterback and after Joe Burrow. I think it's a good game. I'll take Cincinnati to cover that 3.5 point spread. Win by field goal maybe, but I'll take the Niners to win in a big bounce back game for San Francisco. Moving on to Sunday Night Football. You wish the Bears weren't there, but they are. The Chicago Bears going to the West Coast to play the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers 8.5 point favorites. And while I don't like taking the Chargers with that big of spreads, knowing they are the Chargers, I'm still going to take them over the Bears. Fields doesn't look like he's going to play, and I know they had a big win versus the Raiders, but this ain't the Raiders, my friend. This is the Chargers. They do have a good defense, and I think that they show up and they just take the Bears to church. They just clean their closet. I think this is a 2-touchdown plus win for the Chargers. Then finally on Monday Night Football, you got the Las Vegas Raiders. They're going to the Motor City to take on Dan Campbell's knee-hunting Detroit Lions. Well, they just were the ones who got hunting last week. They got destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens, but coming into this one, they are 8-point favorites. And I think they cover that spread. I think they dominate. I think they come out to prove a point that last week they just didn't come out to play, but they are still a top team in the NFC, and I think they show. I think Jared Goff goes off for 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think the defense at least has a pick or two. I think that, or maybe not a pick or two, but a turnover or two, at least one. I think this Detroit Lions team goes and tries to rectify that loss last week and really goes out and dominates a Vegas team that just is not a good team, and I think Josh McDaniels is going to be on his way out the door soon. Bye-bye. Yeah, even the players are probably having a problem with his play calling and calling it old-fashioned. Told you, I said it before, I think he's going to be the first coach fired mid-season this year. I said that week 1. I stand by that now. He will be first coach fired this season. But those are my picks for this upcoming week of the NFL season. Let me know your picks down in the description or on my Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the other side.